listening to Opera Box Score.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Wherever you are, however you're listening, it's America's talk radio show about opera. It's Opera Box Score. I'm Weston Williams, joined by Oliver Camacho, Matt Cummings, and special guest, Maestro Anthony Barrese. All right, this week it's our Halloween Spooktacular. This year we ask what the scariest moments in opera are if you're performing in one. It's the showiest moments that bring delight to the audience, but dread to the tenor. Listen, if you dare. Plus, in the 2-minute drill, Katie Mitchell quits opera, and Francesca Zambello asks everyone else not to. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast on Spotify. Click follow on Apple Podcasts. Hit the plus sign. You can also stream episodes of OBS every Saturday at 10 a.m. Central at amplisoundsradio.com. Email us your hot takes by writing to mailbag@operaboxscore.com or upload a voice memo using the You Got Something to Say tab on our website, operaboxscore.com. However you contribute, you'll get an OBS beer coaster, an OBS lapel pin, and a #1 OBS fan foam finger just for sharing your own hot take. And without further ado, I have been assured that Oliver Camacho has nothing to say about tennis.
I do have something to say about tennis, but I'm going to save it. I'm going to save it because we have some business to get to. There's other people on the call that are we need to hear their voice.
Matt Cummings, do you have anything to say about tennis?
I also do not. I'm just here smarting from last time I saw our special guest was when he was handing me my buttocks in a competition with Oliver.
So true. And Tony Barrese, do you have any opinions about tennis?
No, but I could go on about the Mexican Grand Prix, the Formula One this week, but I'll just sort of say that Ferrari was robbed. That's all I'll say.
Speaking of Mexican, that's actually a perfect seg. Maestro Barrese or Tony, why on earth did you want to come on Opera Box Score today? Do you have something to promote?
I have a couple of things to promote, but the most immediate thing is we just opened up here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, the first performance of a new opera, Dolores, by composer Nicolas Benavides, about the labor rights activist Dolores Huerta, who is 94 and still very much alive. She attended the premiere on Sunday, along with the mayor and a bunch of political people. It was just a huge success, very, very sold out. We have 3 more performances, one on Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. So this is a piece that premiered at West Edge Opera a couple months ago. And if you know anything about the Delano grape strike of the 1960s, this kind of deals with those episodes, a little bit of the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King and Bobby Kennedy, and his assassination. Cesar Chavez, Larry Itliong, these are all characters, real-life characters who make their way into the opera, and then a special appearance by the villain, who in the opera is known as Tricky Dick, and you can sort of imagine who that is.
A real-life villain as well.
Exactly. Although I would give $1 million for him right now. Instead of the other guy.
Fair enough.
So it was just a huge success. It's going on to San Diego, Opera San Diego, in I think 2027. A lot of people outside of New Mexico don't know, but Dolores Huerta is from New Mexico, so that is another reason why we decided to do this. And as I've been on the show before, and I've talked how every season we do at least one Spanish language or Spanish interest opera, and we're actually doing 2 this year. The other one going to be a children's opera that we're doing after this called The Farolitos of Christmas, based on a book for children of the same name by Rudolph Anaya. And it's just a thing that every kid in New Mexico has to read. And we're hoping this becomes our cash cow, our nutcracker. And we're going to be starting rehearsals with that in a couple weeks. So we're going to go from one thing to another, boom, boom. And we're just delighted with the idea that this piece, a lot of people don't even know who Dolores Huerta is. You say, do you know who Dolores Huerta is? They go, I don't know. They said, do you know who Cesar Chavez is? They go, oh, yeah, I've sort of heard of him. So, and there is no Cesar Chavez without Dolores Huerta. So we just think it's a very timely opera, some stuff about immigration, but really about labor rights. It's just a real joy to see the audience reaction for a new work. Almost completely sold out.
When can they come by and see that?
They could come see it this Halloween at 7:30 at night, or they can come a couple days later at Sunday matinee and see the final performance. Although that's probably sold out at this point.
And is there anybody in the cast or in the pit that merits being mentioned here?
The guy in the pit's a total but no, the people that are singing, Kelly Guerra did the role in West Edge, and she's singing the role of Dolores. Sergio Martinez is singing the role of Cesar Chavez, Alex Boyer, Bobby Kennedy, Brian Chaney as Tricky Dick, Christina Martos as Helen Chavez, Hannah Stevens as Ethel Kennedy, and Ralph Duaz as Larry Itliong.
Great. People love to hear their names, and we are like one of the only opera podcasts that's around. So,
And we love naming people. So
as featured on Opera Box Score.
It really is a real boon to everyone's career, I'm sure. And that's why Tony is making the big bucks, is his collaborations with us. Let's talk some opera in a spooky way.
Chalk Talk on Opera Box Score.
So this year we're taking a new approach to the Spooktacular, and we're going to talk about scary moments from the performer's point of view. I'm not a soprano, but I feel like one of the scariest things a soprano is asked to do is to sing the Czardas. So this is a caution to all you young sopranos out there who think, oh, that looks like fun, I can do that. I have heard so many otherwise competent sopranos really crash and burn on this thing. And it has to do, I think, with the character. You have to play this Hungarian countess. And so immediately you put on the Hungarian accent, which can go pretty racist pretty easily. And I think there's a tendency to darken the sound. And you just are going away from your bel canto technique. And I think it works for the beginning of it because it's mostly low. And it's very, you're painting a picture of your homeland. So you really need to lean into that more exotic thing that you can do with your voice. But then pretty soon in this first section of the, what's called the Lasan section, this more lyrical section, there are some very dramatic high notes. So it's already a test to see if you can shave off some of the weight as you go up to these. So that is the first hurdle. And then, as you may know, this Czardas goes into its more vigorous section. It's called the Fris or the Friska section. And the whole point of the Czardas is I guess it's like a whirling dance that goes faster and faster. And there's lots of, passage work, usually scales and even an extended trill. I forget, maybe got a high G or something like that. And this already is a challenge for most sopranos, coloratura or otherwise. And let's just say that Rosalinda is typically not cast as a coloratura soprano, but is cast as like the same type of soprano you would cast Contessa in Marriage of Figaro.
How else would you tell her apart from Adela?
Yes. More in the lines of like a Kyrie Takanawa, So these are vocal, feats that a lot of sopranos can do. But if you did not find your bel canto tone after the first section, if you stuck with the more Hungarian style thing you're putting on, your chords are going to be thicker and it's going to be more effortful to execute all of this faster music.
Yeah, there's one scale that goes all the way down into the basement that is particularly challenging at times.
And then, as this thing gets faster and faster, have you really worked it out with your accompanist? Are you doing this as an audition, or have you worked it out with the conductor? And does the conductor have a tendency to push you? And is everybody just excited? And is this thing actually going faster than you can manage? And of course, there is the matter of the final high D. You cannot not sing this D. I feel like if you're going to sing this aria, you better have a D. And this is, I think, the hardest D in opera. Like, I've heard so many great sopranos who can usually nail the D in other repertoire, just not be able to get up to this one because of everything that's come before it. So let's hear an example of a good D. This is Kyrie Takano, Speak of the Devil, from the studio recording conducted by Andre Previn. So, Anthony, this is also has to do with, the conductor understanding what the singer's ability is and how fast she can go. Have you ever conducted Czardas?
Yes, I did a production of Fledermaus. It was 2008. My second season at Opera Southwest.
Well, you don't have to name her, but did she have the D?
Yeah. It was Blake Hill. That part didn't give me agita. I don't know.
Okay. Well, what does give you agita as a conductor?
The thing that really so when a singer gets behind the orchestra, that makes me annoyed. But when a singer gets ahead of the orchestra, that makes me terrified, because it is sort of like a truck that is barreling down the highway with its brakes cut, and it's actually worse when it's a chorus. There's a live recording from the early aughts from Zurich with Phil Leonotti singing. There's a tenor that we've memory hold singing. Traviata, a fantastic tenor, just unbelievable. And it's a live recording from Zurich, and there's a lot of things that go wrong with it. But one of the most incredible things that go wrong with it, kind of towards the end of Act 1, as the chorus is leaving, and they do their whole "Si ridesta in cielo," and then when it kind of hockets back and forth between the sopranos and everybody else, and it goes back and forth, and you can hear it start to get ahead, and then it gets ahead even more, and then it just snowballs. And by the time everybody the whole orchestra, the big forte with everyone arriving, it's almost like an entire bar ahead of everything, and it just the thing almost completely falls apart, and you could just feel the anxiety that the conductor is, or just everybody involved is feeling. And if a singer's behind, you can kind of gesture and say, get back on. You can kind of make a little waving gesture with your fingers. But if it's something that's getting ahead and it's the whole chorus, it means because they're not paying attention, they're not listening, and there probably are one or two hapless chorus people who are just like terrified, and they can't do anything, because once the boat has started turning, it's almost impossible to stop it.
So is it a boat or is it a train? You've got all these metaphors going on. So.
I mean, yeah, it's a boat. It's like a boat. You know what it is? It's like a truck carrying a boat on ice, going downhill with its brakes cut. That's what it sort of feels like.
Like that time the tanker got caught in the Suez Canal.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what keeps me up at night. Those are the nightmares I have are about those kinds of things.
Well, if you're a conductor listening to this podcast, please let us know what terrifies you in the pit by sending us a message at at mailbag. Oh, what is our
mailbag at operaboxscore.com or the You Got Something to Say tab on our website, operaboxscore.com. You don't have that memorized, Oliver?
Sorry, I hardly ever read that copy. So what about you, Weston?
Well, the thing that scares me the most is Oliver not remembering the things we say on every single episode. When it comes to operas, though, the thing that stresses me out the most as an audience member, not necessarily I think as an audience member, watching the spectacle, I'm always excited by it. But as someone who has worked in theater, every time an animal has to be on stage, it is stressful. Animals poop. They do things that you don't expect. They get spooked sometimes. And you see a lot of horses, of course. You see dogs. You see things like this. But I think the biggest historical fear around animals is got to be the Triumphal March from Aida, of course. As opera budgets have gone down and animal rights activism has gone up, you see less and less of the grand, you're usually not going to see the parade of elephants and camels and stuff like that going by. But at the same time, there are so many stories going throughout history of animals who have relieved themselves on stage, of course. I've seen that happen myself. A camel did it when I saw at Opera Birmingham circa 2006. And of course, horses getting spooked sometimes by the singers. There have been injuries. I have even heard reports of deaths associated with animals losing control on stage. In some of these really old productions of Aida, they would even have lions and tigers and bears, oh my, and just the level of anxiety that causes. But the thing with Aida that's special is not only the fact that this was traditionally how it's done. So if you're doing a traditional sort of presentation of it, there's an expectation of animals, even if it's not as many or as intense as it might have been circa, 1905. If you're going to replace it with anything else, Verdi has written so much music for you to fill. From a director's standpoint, if you're not going to fill that with animals, if you're going to try to do the animal rights thing and not abuse an elephant or two, that's a lot of time to fill for the audience to be kind of unimpressed or I thought there would be a camel or something. It is honestly the worst, because even if you are doing the safe route and just have a couple of dogs and a particularly exotic looking house cat, the audience is going to be like, oh, that was it. I don't know what I would do other than completely go full Eurotrash with directing Aida, simply because of the potential animal involvement or lack thereof. So anytime there's an animal on stage, I am tense. I am not having a good time, because it doesn't matter how well trained it is. You never know what's going to set it off. And especially in an opera where people are screaming at the top of their lungs and there's lights and there's audience members, it's a nightmare, truly a nightmare.
Can I make a suggestion to directors for the Triumphal March? Please do. They could do what Verdi wrote. There's a very clear disposizione scenica from the premiere at La Scala, and it's very detailed about how there's the group of 10 soldiers come in, and what they do is, as they're coming in, they're each bringing a thing. It's one has a war chest, and they're presenting it to the king, and then they kind of move off. So there's a really specific order of the way people are, at least the way they intended in the beginning. They're supposed to come in, they're supposed to present their gifts. Then these people present the slaves, and these people present to this. And the way it's done is it's a slow processional in, a showing of the thing, and then a coming out. And if it's done sort of that way, I think you don't need all the elephants and shitting horses.
Well, what would be spooky about following the rules?
I have literally seen productions of, they have their three animals and they just loop the stage over and over and over again.
Like the Flintstones background cartoon. Yeah.
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 I cannot recommend it. That's a great tip from Tony, and this is why we have you on the show.
We're going to close the segment out with a twofer because the first spooky thing about my selection is boxy bootleg audio. Sorry, Weston. But I had to find a clip that really illustrated what I was trying to talk about here, which is the Act 2 finale of Rigoletto, which, as those of you who have been to the opera before will know, this takes place right after Rigoletto has his big limelight moment with Cortigiani. So usually Gilda then has to run in and throw herself on the floor, be flustered from all the sexual assault of the Duke and the shock of seeing her father, and has to center herself for this these marathon phrases, like just about everything else she sings in this opera. And her music here is just this haunting, beautiful lament over a really sparse orchestration.
It's bel canto.
It is. It's pure bel canto. Here's a clip of, forgive the sound quality here, but of one of the best bel cantisti I can think of, Mariella de Villa, singing it. And then, as the texture gets thicker, it becomes time for a little bit more passage work. Gilda becomes part of this ornamental counter melody, and her part is full of leaps, and it's a real test of like how clean your onset can be and how exact your intonation are through all these humongous hairpins and the push and pull while they're singing in an actual duet. They have this big, beautiful moment. Then there's a brief, interruption for Monterone to get the axe. Not important. What comes next is really the horrifying part, which is that Rigoletto has to crash out of this big fermata into a much faster tempo into the cabaletta section of the Si Vendetta. And this phrase that they have to sing is like alternating of one sustained note and then three very fast triplets over this undulating string ostinato in the orchestra, and it's very rangy, it's very high excitement. All of those things put together are a recipe for lots of push and pull in the tempo, and a very hard thing to keep together in strict time. And the excitement just keeps getting higher and higher and higher. Gilda comes back in, and it like, if this is not absolutely locked in, it is, to go back to our transportation metaphors, a real runaway train moment. And to take a listen here to how, like, first they're going to be a little bit behind, and then they're a little bit ahead, and then they're a little bit behind, and then they're a little bit ahead again.
This is interesting. 3 of the 4, go ahead, but this is very interesting. Go ahead.
As it gets faster and faster, you get into this coda, which clicks up another couple of notches, and then we've got our Gilda having to make the decision about whether or not she's going to go up to the top E flat, and whether the conductor is going to give her space to just kind of stop everything, which is exactly what this conductor does. And then after all of that, there's still another act to go, full of many potential pitfalls.
It does seem like the primary fear we're talking about is the horror of the Tempi. Even the animals, like, I mean, a lot of it is about when do you want the line to come out? You got to get the right moment at the right time. I feel like as opera people, it's so easy to concentrate on the notes, the harmonies, the music, but the hardest thing to keep that amount of people together. I mean,
I think Anthony can explain it better, but I will just add here along those lines that for the audience who maybe don't understand how these things are put together, the orchestra can only go forward. There's no such thing as going backwards.
Sometimes it feels like we're going backwards, but yeah, that's very true.
So, Tony, was there something you were about to add when Matt was
but
talking?
I was going to say exactly what Weston said, that all of these fears kind of come back to tempo, and even the chartish, it was like you were talking about, and a speeding up, like a real speeding up. Because if someone's slowing down, it's just sort of boring, But if someone's speeding up and going off the rails, there's something primal about how terrifying that is.
I mean, I can feel my heart rate increasing just talking about it, and I'm just doing a podcast. Well, if you are listening now, tell us what your fears are. Mailbag at Opera Box Score is the way to get in touch with us, or use the You Got Something to Say tab on our website, operaboxscore.com. You can also help us spread the word about Opera Box Score by giving us a rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can also write us a review, but only if it's a good one. And let a friend know. Ask them what their deepest fears are, and we can exploit it for clicks here on Opera Box Score. The 2-minute drill is right now.
This just in. the 2-minute drill.
Speaking of time limits and having to go fast, all right, listen up. Here's everything you need to know about what happened in Operaland this week.
In an interview with Parterre, friend of the show Francesca Zambello spoke about the difficulty of running a Kennedy Center-affiliated opera company in, quote, these times. Said Zambello, our sales are down 38%. Our contributions are markedly down because people don't want to give or come. So my response is, don't take it out on us. Find ways that are constructive to disagree rather than boycotting art and artists. We believe culture, opera, art is our calling, and by boycotting us, you are killing art.
Director Katie Mitchell has announced that the upcoming production of the Macropolis case in London will be her final act in opera, mostly due to the misogyny of the art form. Most librettos of the 35 to 37 canonical pieces would never be staged as plays, said Mitchell. The dissonance between doing feminist deconstructions and sometimes the experience of sexism in the workplace is something I've no longer an appetite for.
A new paper in the Journal of the Association for Consumer Research is diving into the debate about what drives participation in the so-called highbrow cultural activities like opera. In the UK, we found that cultural capital, things like education, knowledge, and linguistic ability, was the strongest predictor of who engages with highbrow culture, said co-author Joe Gladstone. In the US, it was social capital, your networks, group memberships, and occupational status that dominated.
In news that should surprise absolutely no one, Sandra Oh's appearance as the Duchess of Krakenthorpe in The Met's Daughter of the Regiment has garnered rave reviews from fans. The only downside for her? The character she's playing. All these unbelievable singers, and I have to look like a big sourpuss, she said.
In major awards news, Georgian mezzo-soprano Ekaterina Boacije and Romanian baritone Mihai Damian have won the 2025 Operalia, as well as the Audience Prize. Second prize was awarded to American mezzo-soprano Natalie Lewis and Armenian baritone Grisha Martirosyan. Russian soprano Samira Galimova and Italian tenor Dave Monaco took home third prize. The Birgit Nielsen Prize was given to Natalie Lewis and Austrian bass baritone Alexander Grassauer. Boacije and Martirosyan also took home the Sarsuela Awards.
The Leos Janáček Foundation has awarded the Sir Charles Mackerras Prize to Robert Krusic, the new chief conductor of the Janáček National Opera of the National Theatre Brno. Krusic is only the second person to receive the prize, which is given in Jubilee years, marking the Scottish conductor's birth. And Marina Rebecca has received the Chevalier de l'Ordre des Arts et Lettres, nailed it, for her contributions to art in France.
In trade news, Ted Huffman has been named General Director of the Aix-en-Provence Festival. The celebrated stage director will take the reins of the festival and implement Pierre Audy's programming for the 2026 season. Audy passed away earlier this year in May. Huffman will also continue the elements already put in place by Audy for the 2027 season and will immediately begin the artistic and strategic planning for the 2028 season and beyond.
The Teatro San Carlo has named Fulvio Adamo Macciardi as its new general and artistic director, effective immediately. Macciardi replaces Stefan Lisner, who was ousted following a decree from the Italian Council of Ministers prohibiting individuals older than 70 from running major arts organizations.
Aspen Music Festival and school president and CEO Alan Fletcher will transition from his current role to president emeritus in 2027 after more than 2 decades of leadership.
Exit stage right, acclaimed soprano Benita Valente has died at age 91. With a career that spanned decades, Valente was beloved for her faultless technique and superior musicianship that allowed her to master the light lyric soprano operatic repertoire, as well as be a champion of art song, early and contemporary music. A regular soloist with the Philadelphia Orchestra, among her many credits, Benita Valente gave the world premiere of David Del Tredici's All in the Golden Afternoon from Child Alice.
Mezzo-soprano, voice teacher, and choir director Joe Rodenberg has passed away. Rodenberg appeared in performances with Chicago Opera Theater, Light Opera Works of Chicago, Palmiro Opera, Union Avenue Opera of St. Louis, and Chamber Opera Chicago. Among her operatic credits were the roles of Carmen, Prince Orlovsky, Dorabella, and Charlotte. We send our condolences to her family and the many Chicago area singers whose lives she touched.
And on this day, October 28th, first performances include André Campra's Les Muses, an opera ballet premiering in Paris in 1702. Antonio Vivaldi's Arcilde Regina di Ponto premiered in Venice in 1716. François-Adrien Boieldieu's Rosalie et Mirza premiered in Rouen in 1795. Giovanni Pacini's La Schiava in Baghdad premiered in Turin in 1820. Donizetti's Roberto Devereux premiered in Venice in 1837. Jacques Offenbach's Pepito premiered in Paris in 1853. Charles Lecoq's La Jolie Paysanne premiered in Paris in 1897. Eugène d'Albert's Die Abreise, or The Departure, premiered in Frankfurt in 1898. In 1942, Alexander Grechaninov's Dobrinka Nikitich premiered in Moscow in 1903. 1942 saw the premiere of Capriccio, an opera by Richard Strauss, in Munich. Darius Milhaud's Le Jeu de Robin et Marion premiered in Wiesbaden in 1951. And in 1986, it was the first performance of Michael Nyman's, the man who mistook his wife for a hat, in London.
Some birthdays. In 1797, it was the Italian soprano Giuditta Pasta, stage name of Maria Costanza Negri. She was born near Milan and created the title roles of Anna Bolena, Amina in La Sonnambula, and Norma. Wow, if only there were any way to know if she was good at singing fast and or high. In 1896, American conductor, composer, and director of the Eastman School of Music, Howard Hanson, was born in the real-life town of Wahoo, Nebraska. American mezzo-soprano Clara Mae Turner was born in 1920. She created Baba, or Madame Flora, in The Medium at Columbia University. And happy birthday to English composer Howard Blake, born on this day in 1938.
And that's your 2-minute drill.
You just heard a little bit of the luminous Nanetta of Benita Valente from a production of Falstaff at the Metropolitan Opera from 1975. That was her Act 3 aria, Su fil di un Etesio. I just the purity of tone, the spin of her breath on those long sustained notes is really something special, and it's too bad that there aren't more artifacts for people who weren't there to hear her live to get to know her singing.
Shout out to Ryan Opera Center alum Ian Rucker, who starred as Billy Budd in the Aix-en-Provence Festival's Billy Budd. They call it the story of Billy Budd. I forgot. The Redux. I think that was by Ted Huffman, actually. So many things coming together here this week, but I thought Ian Rucker was going to go further in Operalia. But congratulations to those who did win. Only one American there in the finals and the placing, Natalie Lewis. So we got to get Natalie on the show. Everybody else can kick rocks.
As we all know, we love America.
We do love America, and if you love America, you should go to the WNO. So says Francesca Zambello, to definitely misquote her. I think that this is, before we get started talking about this story, obviously the idea that, if you're boycotting the WNO, you're boycotting art. I think that, that might not be quite the scale of the quote that she was talking about. She was making the point in this interview that the WNO is not the same as the Kennedy Center, but because they perform at the Kennedy Center, they're very much caught in the crossfire of people, rightly disgusted with the direction that the center is going and the country is going. So, but that being said, I do think the philosophical debate of boycotting the arts is certainly one we've had before on the show. And, I think that my position has been relatively the same. I think it depends a lot on the context and where and how, and if there is an alternative. You need to have applied pressure in points that make sense, that can actually make a difference. If you're just boycotting because it makes you uncomfortable to be in the Kennedy Center right now, I think that is something that is more of an emotional response, but it also could be a very valid one in these interesting times.
Yeah, stop killing art, people.
Yeah, there's not really a good answer here because our ability to fight back against this government is limited to what levers of power we control, and where you spend your money is pretty much the only thing that we as individuals can control anymore. So while I do understand the difficulty of filling an opera house to go see Aida at a time like this, I do think that probably Aida is going to be fine and people will go see it.
Aida will be okay unless you have too many animals on stage.
Exactly. But it's that Zambello production, so there's basically nothing happening during the Triumphal March, so...
Yeah, well, that's just smart directing, honestly.
Yes, exactly.
Speaking of important directors, Katie Mitchell is leaving opera kind of, out of nowhere. She's known for these sort of deconstructionist takes on operas, the kind of stuff I love, obviously. But she is... she's thinking about She's thinking about retiring. She has been, working for a long time, and she's just reached the point where she's like, she might still try to direct a film. She might have some side projects here or there.
No, but the field of opera is for her just like so suffused with misogyny from the everyday interactions with leadership at the house or conductors or music directors talking to her in ways that they would never talk to a male director, which I have absolutely no doubt happened many, many times throughout her career. And then the fact that all of this is in service of an art form that, as many have pointed out for centuries, is really does ride on the backs of women suffering at the hands of bad men.
It is an interesting place to be. I mean, whenever I introduce someone to opera, not through the music first, but through the stories first, I will often see looks of horror in their eyes as I describe, something that, like she said, most librettos of the 35 to 37 canonical pieces would never be staged as plays. And I think that is certainly something that is hard to reckon with, I think, for a lot of opera lovers who, want to see a lot of these pieces done over and over again. And even quite a few non-canonical ones as well also hinge on these kinds of things, because when you're talking about an art form that's been around for over 400 years, you are going to accumulate the cultural baggage of 400 years. And you can't have a diet completely on new works to fix that. As much as sometimes I would like more new works to be played, that's just not a way to sustain your average company.
One of the productions that I think people might recognize as being hers is the Theodora from Royal Opera House and Ballet, or Royal Ballet and Opera, whatever you call that place now, where Theodora has to pole dance for the non-Christians, I guess.
For the Romans.
For the Romans, yeah.
Wasn't that the first one? The first one they did at the RBO that's involved an intimacy director, or am I?
Oh, that could be, yeah.
Yeah, and she specifically names Julia Bullock and that Theodora as one of the collaborators that made her not necessarily want to walk away from Omelas, as well as friend of the show Barbara Hannigan in Pelléas and Melisande. And it's really our loss that we're not going to have her work and her insights to help add layers of complexity to these works and the canon that so often can just become like a paint by numbers.
Yeah, it's really a bummer to see her go. I hope she tries to come back at some point if she's so inclined. I think that's largely, I know artistically people sometimes don't like the deconstructions. I certainly do.
Oh, you
but I
really?
think that, I know, shocking, isn't it? But I think that, voices like hers are going to be important. And she did make the point in the article that she has seen improvement over the years. She seems to think that it is possible to overcome these challenges. But unfortunately, as we say week in, week out, we ain't there yet.
Yeah. I love the specificity of 35 to 37 canonical works. Like, she could have just said like around 40. It's like, no, it's like, there's a couple of border cases. So it's 35, 36, 37.
I bet she can name 5 Handel operas, but that's just my guess.
Only if they pass the Bechdel test.
Yeah. Well, speaking of men, because the Bechdel test.
Because we always are.
Yeah. Stefan Listener lost his job due to being old. Yeah. I think that the arts, especially conducting and stage directing, I would assume, are the few places that are safe for people to work well into their 80s.
I mean, it's that and Congress. So it's your options are limited. I think certainly, we've talked about this before. I think there is a certain element of ageism at play, but also we are in an art form that needs to regenerate, that needs to lean into younger people. I'm no longer the spring chicken I once was. Now, compared to Oliver Camacho, I am, but
you're an infant. Yeah.
I mean, we all are compared to Oliver.
But I think that there needs to be, I think that this is a particularly sort of, a brutal choice, but I think that younger people are definitionally the future, and I think, as with so many things, taking younger people more seriously is usually a good idea.
In this case, it's actually a bit of like a justice delayed, because the law that prevented people 70 years or older from having these jobs went into effect 2 years ago. But a labor court in Italy reinstated Listener through the end of his intended contract tenure this year. So here we are.
Well, now that we're all 2 minutes older, let's wrap this show up.
Good call, bad call on Opera Box Score.
Good call, bad call. That's how we end things around here. Let's start with Oliver Camacho.
Well, I have my own good call, which is for that Raphael Pichon. He's just an endless source of really beautiful ideas, creativity. There is right now a video circulating of his Brahms Requiem, just released as a recording, but he's also created a staged version. I forget who the stage director he's working with, but it's set as a plane crash, like the survivors of a plane crash. So like the chorus is memorized, and they're all like, wandering around this ruin of a plane, and it looks like a harrowing video. And I could imagine it, from the audience perspective, it's probably really powerful. Bad call. This is Anthony's bad call. He had to take off. Anthony was just perusing Opera Base, and he saw listing for a performance by Heartbeat Opera for Orgy and Bess. Deep Throats and High Notes is the name of the event. So this is a drag show, so I guess it's okay because, drag's gonna do that. But to be an opera base, that could be a little bit like disconcerting. Like, did they misspell it? And then you go Deep Throats and High Notes. Oh no, they didn't misspell it. That's what they wanted. So, not great for the legacy opera audience, which I count myself part of. But I guess for the kids, it's fine.
If you're one of the young folks like us, you can enjoy that. It's in New York City. Honestly, I would go. It sounds delightful just for the pun alone. Let's go with Matt Cummings.
One other story that came out this week that didn't make it into the drill because there isn't a ton of news in it, but I do think it makes an interesting read. We will put into the show notes, is about the Rex Marquez, who works at the Met Opera, and it's his job to get all of the food that needs to go on stage for the Zeffirelli production of La Boheme, which I didn't realize this from the audience, but it does consist of Oreos, fried chicken, croissants, and bagels, all kinds of anachronisms. So just an interesting peek behind the curtain there that we thought you might find interesting.
That sounds delicious. It is 8:15 p.m. as we're recording, and I have not had dinner yet, so I need to wrap this show up. But I also want to remind everyone while we're on this subject, donate to your local food pantries, especially since it looks like SNAP benefits will not be going out starting next week, unless things change by the time this podcast posts. So, once again, we were an opera podcast. We're a political podcast now because that's just the world we're living in. That's it for this week's edition of America's Talk Radio Show about opera. Make sure you subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Get your voice heard and find links to stuff we've talked about at our website, operaboxscore.com. That's also where you can put your money where our mouths are. Give back to the OBS using the Support the Team tab. Your announcer is Norm Woodell. Your creative consultant is Oliver Camacho, and your audio editor is me. The executive producer of the OBS is George Cedarquist. For co-hosts Matt Cummings and our guest Anthony Barrese, I'm Weston Williams, asking you to continue the conversation about misogyny in opera with three other dudes on a podcast. We're back with an all-new show next week with soprano Janine DeBeek. She'll take a free throw, plus you get more opera headlines, more hot takes, and more so-called highbrow cultural activities. Join us.